We wanted to create a quick video about some ideas for practice. This week our topic is why don't more white Christians speak up about racism? And I think one of the things that comes out of a discussion like this is, okay, so if you are a white Christian, what should you do about it? What are some ideas for practice? One of them is that, you want to speak to your closest friends and family about this. I think that's where so much of this happens and where it should happen is the people closest to you should know that this is important to you. This is something that Robin DiAngelo talks about in her book, White Fragility, that there are these behind the scenes conversations with for white people where you speak about things in a way that you wouldn't in front of a group that's not just white. And so there can be a lot of social pressure to just kind of go with the flow in those situations. And I think one of the places where we have to start is speaking up in those situations, saying it's not okay to talk about people like that. Or that's actually not what people think. That's not how people are. And those are really important conversations because you're putting up a boundary that says, that's not an okay thing to say. And this is the way that we speak about things. It's, putting our anti-racist beliefs into practice with the closest people that we know. And I think that's an important place to start. And so that can be a really important one. The second one that I think about a lot is just through social media usage. I hear people all the time talking about how social media doesn't change people's opinions. And on one hand, I believe that can be true, that, on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you don't see people just making a 180-degree turn on something, right? You don't see a bunch of dialogues that are like, oh, I've learned something. I'll completely change what I thought about something. That doesn't happen too often. At the same time, we know social media and any other kind of media deeply changes what we think about things. Anything that we bring into our minds changes who we are and what we think and who we become. How after a year like 2020 could you say that social media is not a powerful force? It is a powerful force, and it can either be a powerful force for good or it can be a powerful force for bad. We want it to be a powerful force for good, an anti-racist force. And so use your social media. I get it. The people who say I just want to post, funny memes or, pictures on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. But I would really challenge you to maybe rethink that. Maybe there are better ways that you can use the influence that you have in those places for the good of humanity, for the good of all of us. And I think that's an important part of our Christian faith is to be better influences in those places. And so, as you're doing that, be a good force, right? Treat people with love, treat people with caring, be gentle when you're talking on social media. Just because you're on the right side of things doesn't give you the right to blast people about things. And so do that well, represent Christ well. And I think that's an important one. The last one that I think about is, talk to your church leaders about starting anti-racist groups. There are a lot of groups out there like this. One that I'll link in the description is Be the Bridge. Just a wonderful organization that's helping people of different racial backgrounds come together and talk about racial justice as well as racial reconciliation. And so they're doing an amazing job. There are groups out there and organizations out there that you can participate in really easily. You don't have to, if you don't feel equipped to create something, don't create it. Find someone else to help you out with that and train you in that. And so, I think one of the beauties of that is that's when you're starting to talk about structural change to your church community. And it's where people who want to create anti-racist communities that represent racial justice and racial reconciliation can begin to gather together. Then hey, we're coming to a common understanding of how these things work and how we can address it further as a spiritual community. So talk to your church leaders. If you are a church leader, start some of those groups. Do something practically to get people together to begin to change the broader community. And so with all of these things, as you're getting started with this, as you're continuing on this journey, be prepared. Steel yourself. When we begin to talk about anti-racism, there just will be backlash. That is a part of it. If you haven't been called a communist for talking about race, then, what are you doing? That's just a part, it's a given part of this discussion. And so we've got to be prepared for that. But that doesn't make it in any way not worth it. It's something that we must take steps to addressing these things. Let me know in the comments. What are you practicing? What is your church community practicing? How do we get better at this?